Good afternoon, grinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender at BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And today is Wednesday, February 12th, and this is your NBA SimLabs analysis for tonight's humongous 14-game NBA slate tonight. Opening up SimLabs right now, which is our premium simulation tool to build the most competitive lineups for the contests that you play. You can play large field, small field, single entry. You could be building 150 lineups. You could just be building one lineup. Use our projections on players, on ownership, our contest sims to come up with the quickest way of fielding competitive lineups in your contests tonight. We got a ton of Q tags, first off. Okay, let's get it out of the way. We got 14 games tonight. A lot of stuff will be changing. So remember, you should be using SimLabs much closer to lock, especially in NBA. We'll get news in and out. And you'll see here on SimLabs, you see, check the latest Sims update. And these will be updated throughout the day, just like our projections. Anyone that is questionable on the injury report is still factored in to our projections and our simulations. But once someone goes from questionable to doubtful, someone goes from questionable to out, then we update the projections, we update the sims, and come back and check out what they say. So the situation room, which is free on RotoGrinders.com, we have tons of Q tags. I mean, we got Jaylen Brown, Q tag. We got Tyler Hero, Q tag. We got Alperen Sengun, Q tag. We got Anthony Edwards, Q tag. Luka with the Q tag. Lillard just showed up on the injury report with the Q tag. We got Emmanuel Quickly still with the Q tag. Alexander Sarr with the Q tag. We got tons of 10s and 9s here on the Situation Room injury report here on RotoGrinders. So as I said again, I'm going to go through SimLabs, what it says now. As of now, assuming all these questionable players actually do play, but you should be tuning in later today on Grinders Live, 5 p.m. Eastern, and then immediately follows that is Crunch Time, and that's leading right up until lock, and they'll have all the news, all the projections changes, all the plays for large field GPPs, for cash games. You should tune in then as everything gets updated. But SimLabs will be updated multiple times today as all that news comes in. But when you get to that point, how should you be using SimLabs? Especially, what's the context of a 14-game slate? Okay, let's say we're playing. It's kind of maybe not the largest field, but 5,000 person field. We got that $2,500 Millie Maker tonight, and you're gonna take one shot. You got a ticket. You're gonna build a lineup. It's about a 5,000 entry contest, and a lot of people have questions about when do you like the results range. Like high, very low. All the results range means is that SimLabs has already produced and already simulated all these lineups. It depends on what set of lineups do you really want to be looking for when choosing the ones that you want to play. Now, if you're playing like 150 lineups, you probably want to keep the results range kind of high. If you're only playing 1 to 3 lineups, you may want to keep it very low. Only like the best 15% range of lineups, especially on a large slate, right? When we keep the result range high, especially if we're playing large field GPPs, it's going to include, like, we have tens of thousands of lineups that are competitive on DraftKings tonight. And maybe you don't necessarily want to play the very high variance ones that have some 1.2% owned player in it. Well, if you keep your results range high, you're gonna find a lot of those types of lineups. If you keep the results range very low, it's kind of gonna take away some of those high variance lineups and really narrow it down to the top 15%. Now, on a small slate, if you're playing a 3-game slate, a very low results range will probably deal you a lot of very, very chalky lineups because there aren't that many options on a 3-game slate. On a 14-game slate, you have tons of options. So even keeping the results range very low, it'll really just limit you to lineups that maybe you feel more comfortable with, right? You could always weed the stuff out in SimLabs. There could be 2 lineups that have very, very similar ratings, and one could have like 3 1% owned players, and one could have just like no one under 10%. And they're both about the same expected value. So you have to understand that SimLabs is not necessarily telling you like who to play. It's about what does the lineup construction look like as a whole. So on this slate, I'm going to put in 150 lineups just on our base settings, right? We can even go to advanced. We kind of don't want it. We don't care that much about correlation. Correlation is a bit weak in NBA, but on a 14 game slate, like we don't necessarily have to play 5 guys from one team. I mean, as of this point, so maybe we don't care that much about correlation in our SimLabs rating. And since we're kind of dealing with the most optimal players, even on a 14 game slate, maybe we put the ownership weight up a bit. Maybe we put that up to like 25% or so. We want to, because we're playing a single entry contest. Even though it's 5,000 entries, I still want to kind of optimize a little bit more cash equity, a little bit more. It doesn't have to be first place or dead last. So maybe I increase, the projection, right? That mean median projection. So so I'm not stuck with a lot of players in my lineup that like are very, very boom or bust. You need to have a couple of them, but you don't need to have it across the entire board. So I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit for projection weight up to like 25% ownership weight. And then keep our simulation weight high, because obviously if you trust our simulations, you should be weighing those in the most. So I'm just going to press for 150 lineups just to see what comes up. It's a big 15 game slate. We got tons of Q tags, right? So I'm just using this pretty much for research purposes right now. Look at our exposures. You can see here in SimLabs, you could get the exposures. You could scroll down and see all these lineups, right? And you can see they're all rated pretty damn high, right? They all have different types of players in there, right? So it's not just this lineup is the best and that lineup sucks, right? There's tons of lineups to choose from, right? We see here that we're getting a lot of Max Christie, a lot of PJ Washington, of course. We have PJ Washington on the injury report, so he may not even be in. We get Nick Smith. We get a lot of Mavericks. We get some Moses Moody, some Steph Curry. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we're getting a lot of like Monk, Christie, Washington, Smith, stuff like this. Kind of like the cheaper, like these are all like small forwards. So like I guess the construction today is a little bit geared more towards more people are going to be going cheaper, I guess, or not like high end at the small forward or maybe power forward position. But we can see here, we go back to the main page that let me reload this again. And we could see on the SimLabs dashboard. It will also show you, optimal versus projected ownership for every position. So like when you see big red bars, that means the player is over-owned. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you can't play that player, right? You shouldn't be fading all the over-owned players. They're owned for a reason. They have a very high optimal rate, but they may not be as high as what the projected optimal rate is. Like Moses Moody, 11% difference negatively, meaning that his optimal rate and his ownership, like I can take a look right here. Moody's ownership is on the screen. We have his projected ownership at 28%. Okay. So what this SimLabs is saying is that the chances of him being in the optimal lineup, meaning the best possible lineup at the end of the night, is about 17%, right? Which is 11 percentage points lower than his projected ownership. So this gives you a little bit of a heuristic on who's over-owned and who's under-owned. But still, a player having a 17% shot at being on the optimal lineup is pretty high. It's pretty high. So if you went through and said, I'm not going to play any of these guys, right? I'm not going to play Moses Moody. At power forward, Bol and PJ Washington are both very over-owned by 19 and 17 percentage points. We go to center, right? Thomas Bryant by 29 percentage points. I mean, that's the difference. If I look at Thomas Bryant, we have projected to be about 31% owned. He's only optimal in our sims like 2% of the time. Like that's egregiously over-owned. Okay. So most likely, I'm probably going to find lineups that don't have Thomas Bryant in it. Okay. So I'm going to put this into the exclude players, right? Because I'm kind of going through what types of lineups do I want to play. And then let's go to small forward. Small forward like Nick Smith, Max Christie, like all the guys that we looked at. Nick Smith projected ownership is 30%, and he's only optimal like 16% of the time, which isn't like that bad. Max Christie, his projected ownership is 23%, and he's only optimal like it looks like 12% of the time. So maybe we don't have to play these guys, especially maybe we want to pay up. Maybe we want to pay up. We have what Jaylen Brown is on the injury report, I believe. Like Jason Tatum is coming up as underowned. LeBron James underowned. Obviously Jaylen Brown is up here, but I don't know. Maybe Jaylen Brown doesn't play today. So maybe let's avoid Max Christie and Nick Smith in these lineups also. So I'm going to put Max Christie and Nick Smith, right? Just to see what lineups that have these configurations, what do they look like? And what are the highest rated lineups look like? And we're going to choose one. If we're playing one lineup, you could choose multiple ones. You could choose you could use this to go, well, I'm going to try to find lineups that don't have these three guys. And then I'm going to try to find lineups that have those three guys. What do they look like? Right. So it's not about players. It's about lineups. So let's see who's like underowned today. Right. So we got like the Sims say Karis LeVert underowned. Right, Zach LaVine, like some of the, especially on a 14-game slate, there's going to be a lot of underowned players. Jason Tatum, LeBron James, at center, like Precious Achiuwa, right? Draymond Green, because we have a pretty good projection for Achiuwa today. But still, like Jason Tatum, LeBron James, like that's what it seems like at point guard. CJ McCollum, Donovan Mitchell. And a couple of other people. So we're looking for a lineup. Let's say we're looking for a lineup with either Tatum or LeBron, right? Because we have Luka. Luka's questionable. So Tatum is 9,900 at that small forward position, which a lot of people are going to pay down for, or not pay up to 9,900 at least. And LeBron's in the same spot, right? I mean 10-5 for small forward, right? That's essentially why they're going underowned, right? If you think from a common sense perspective. So let's say we want to find lineups. Let's say we're going to play two lineups. Right, and I want to play a lineup with Tatum, and I want to play a lineup with LeBron that doesn't have Nick Smith, Max Christie, and Thomas Bryant in it. Okay, so now I'm going to look. I'm going to just say just give me 20 lineups for what I'm looking for. Small field, very low results range. And let's see what we get that has Jason Tatum in it, and we'll pick one. We'll just pick one as of now. Obviously, you'd be doing this. I want to reiterate on a 14-game slate with 1 million Q tags. You should be doing this much, much closer to lock. So, like, if everything stays the way it is, like, this is fine. But really, you want to wait for the Sims to update closer and closer to lock and then do this process, which doesn't take more than 5 minutes. Doesn't take more than 5 minutes. You could save lineups in here in the SimLabs dashboard. And if you're a RotoGrinders Pro member, you could sync the lineups to Lineup HQ and you can kind of download them. You could do whatever the hell you want with them. Okay, so here we go. Here are some. We're getting some pretty good rated lineups. Okay, here we've got one. This one has Moses Moody in it, right? Jason Tatum, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Delano Blanton, right? We have a 0.9% on Gary Trent. We have a 1.2% on Klay Thompson, right? Tatum already is going to be very low owned. So you got Trent in this lineup as well, Klay Thompson in this lineup as well, another Klay Thompson lineup, right? Kind of says, well, he's Achiuwa and Towns together, right? Here's CJ McCollum. We have is very underowned because he's only going to be 0.5% owned. I mean, essentially, if you're going to play Tatum, like at this point, if you're going to play Tatum and McCollum together, you might as well play Christie or Smith. I mean, that's kind of what it says, what it looks like here. I think we can find actually more lineups. If we're going to play Jason Tatum or LeBron James at that low ownership, I mean, maybe it's perfectly. Maybe we don't play Bryant, but maybe Christie and Smith are absolutely fine, right? So sometimes you just look at this and you go, do you really need to play multiple 1% online players? Now, SimLab says that you can, but understand it's going to be very contrarian. So let's run this again with 20 lineups and just we don't mind Nick Smith or Max Christie because I think a 1% on Jason Tatum is is good enough as it is, right? Okay, so here we go. And we're still really still SimLab still likes these types of lineups, right? We got Banton, Monk, right? Do we get anything in? We got Moody in here. No, really, when it comes to Jason Tatum, it's yeah. I mean, once we start getting down into here with John Collins in it, Shaden Sharp, I mean, these are very contrarian lineups. Okay, so so maybe we take out Thomas Bryant. I mean, let's put up 150 and see what Jason Tatum line. I mean, I don't know. I mean, hey, SimLabs says this is the way that you should build. I'm not gonna argue with it. But yeah, that's pretty much what it says. Here's one with Towns, right? We still get Thompson and Trent in this lineup. Here's Towns. Here's a Precious Achua one, right? Because you got to fill in like some cheap guard anyway, right? Because you got Moody there, you got Gary Trent. Maybe find one that doesn't have Gary Trent in it, or Clay. Let's see, no Trent and no Thompson. Let's see what comes up. Thompson, Clay Thompson, Clay Thompson. Let's see. You see how fast this is? I mean, like it's really fast. 150 lines done. You're done. Well, it only can come up with 66 of them because this combination. It's basically it's kind of telling us that this combination isn't like the best of combinations, right? If we want to play Jason Tatum, we kind of maybe should be playing Clay Thompson or Gary Trent in one of these spots based on our simulations. So let's look at LeBron. How about let's look at the LeBron lineups? LeBron, who also like the higher price as of now. The higher price small forwards are going to be under-owned because most people are going to be spending down at small forward. So maybe we want to play this type of lineup, but maybe not as like low owned, right? Do we want to play a 0.6% Jaden McDaniels? I mean, this is a very high variance lineup, right? But we got this one isn't that bad because it has CJ McCollum, which we have as under-owned as well. So I don't mind this. We're playing Steph Curry at 13%, CJ McCollum at 0.5%, Aaron Nesmith 13%, LeBron at 1.3%, then Matkovic at 10.2%, which is correlated a little bit with McCollum. You got Max Christie in there, right? And we're playing the Warriors Mavericks game, right? So Moody, Green, and Curry with Max Christie. And then we got McCollum, Matkovic. So it does have some correlation. And even though we're not like if we up the correlation factor on the SimLabs rating in our advanced settings, like this lineup probably ends up appearing before this lineup, right? That's essential. I mean, it's a higher projection we could see here, and it has a lower ownership, and it's more correlated. So I like this lineup. Let's save this. Like press right here, I could save this lineup. So this is a LeBron lineup that seems pretty good. I'd play this lineup tonight if all the information is the same as it is. Obviously, 18 people could be out, and now all of this is like you got to play the 14 other people, right? So I definitely check this out. Much closer to lock. Here we got one with Trent, Durant. I mean, Durant at 0.5% owned. I mean, there's a way to get different. It's a 14-game slate. If you can't get different on a 14-game slate, I don't know what to tell you, right? But I think as of now, spending money in the small forward spot may just naturally make you different. Even if you play some of these chalkier kind of pieces, even like a Max Christie or a Moses Moody together with a cheaper power forward or small forward tonight. So I think that's what SimLabs says. So if you want to get SimLabs, the best way to get it for the best bang for your buck is part of the Combo Light package. $29.99 a month. You get SimLabs, everything that I showed you. You can use SimLabs to its full potential, right? For all four major sports, NFL, NBA, MLB, and PGA. And you also get all of our research tools, which is all the, Court IQ, Gridiron IQ, Plate IQ, all of that stuff, as well as our premium written content. So you get the consensus value rankings, you get kind of our write-ups and everything. You basically just don't get lineup HQ. You don't get our projection grids. You don't get the props and the pick'em stuff. And obviously you don't get like stuff like NHL and MMA and all the other sports. But I think it's the best bang for your buck in the DFS industry. Most simulation products, you're paying $100+ a month for. Well, you get ours at SimLabs, $29.99 as part of the Combo Light package. And if you're not going to get that, at least give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up on the video on your way out the door. Give me those thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. And definitely check out on a 14-game NBA slate with a ton of Q tags. you got to tune into Grinders Live tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern, and then crunch time around 6:15 or so, and they'll keep you up to date with what's going on the injury report. If this guy is in, who do you play? If that guy is out, who do you play? You know, in and out and all this stuff. This guy's sitting, and we got to play 17 people from this team, right? All of that will be updated in our projections if you are a premium member, but definitely check out the shows later today. And I'll be back after the All-Star break. We got an All-Star break with some more SimLabs analysis here on RotoGrinders, the best place to get all the info for daily fantasy, props, and pick'em.